Hi, welcome to another episode of About the Authors TV. I'm your host, Jake Brown. Country music legend Kinky Friedman has long been known for his trademark black hat and cigar, even running for governor of Texas where he took over 2% of the vote. But he's had another creative sideline for the past 35 years and 25 books, that of being a best-selling author. Kinky joins us for a rare interview tonight, and we're so proud to have him on the show. Greenwich Killing Time is the first time that country music fans got to know you as an author and book character. And you've also got some very interesting characters throughout the books. Are those based on real-life muses? Especially your sidekick, who has a very interesting name.
Yeah, Ratsa. The idea that a guy who's steeped in works of fiction, whether it's Conan Doyle or Agatha Christie or who the hell it is, uh, Miss Marple is a good one to follow. She feels pretty much the same way. I mean, Miss Marple is a made-up character, but she solves crimes by linking the situation to the past in St. Mary Mead, where she's from, when she was a child or a young girl. So, and she says this guy Jake is very similar to a murderer back in St. Mary Mead, a little town, and he's very nice and friendly, and but really something about him is kind of very dangerous. It makes me feel that he's guilty, or so forth, or he's not guilty. Maybe he's guilty of some minor crime. Maybe because he's like the butcher's son in St. Mary Mead. That's kind of so. Yeah, so I use those characters. Although the characters are real people, and they're my friends, and several of them have been bugled to Jesus by this time. Gone, particularly the loss of Mike McGovern, who is probably closest to me in New York. He's the one who gave me his mother's old typewriter.
Wow.
The type, and I started writing, I guess in about '86 or something.
Were writing books like Elvis, Jesus, and Coca-Cola, God Bless John Wayne, and Roadkill an escape for you when you wanted to get away from making albums?
That was a lonely monastic time for me because I was so closely foreshadowing and copying and self-plagiarizing and doing whatever you do to get a book. I liked very much what Simonon said, who had Inspector McGray as his character. He said he would start with anything. Start with a postcard.
Is that actually a piece of advice you'd give out to aspiring authors that's worked for you?
That's how much you need. You don't need to put. Some of the lesser writers will put bullet points down here for this or that. They'll have the whole book, but I don't work that way. I like to see if I can make the. A critic once said of my books that they smell like New York.
They do, trust me. I lived in New York for 5 years in my early 20s.
You must feel like me. I'm mourning the passing of Thousand Island Dressing.
What have you most enjoyed over the years about getting to meet your fans, say at a book signing versus backstage at a live show? Is there any difference for you between the two?
I never read the books again. I just delight. I just remember the time I was broke as usual and at a bookstore doing a signing, and they delivered me there in a limo and picked me up in a limo because I had to get to the airport. And that's just, and the people, they look at all the books I've written, and they thought this guy is really a successful guy. But really, I was very close to those days in New York. I guess I spent about 7 years in New York, mostly in the Village. See, now I never got to Brooklyn except for one time. The whole time I was remember I was awake almost all of those 7 years.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't as if I had a regular schedule and slept.
You've been signed to both indie and major publishing houses. What was the difference once you've been in it for a while between, say, the book business and the music business?
Writing books is such a racket. Anyway, it does not particularly impress me that a guy is paying that much attention to guy who's made a lot of money and been very successful still bothers to care how many books they have at the store. That's I don't think that's an inspiring.
Kinky, you've done book signings all over the world, from Australia to Africa to Europe. What do you most enjoy about interfacing with such a dynamic reading base?
I'm not one of these precious little guys that is uh, a guy. Now, a guy that genuinely has the problem is Larry McMurtry, who really he can't talk to a guy.
With books like Armadillos and Old Lace and A Case of the Lone Star, it must be fun to weave so much of your real life adventures and imagination together into these detective novels.
Remember, this is pretty nonfiction stuff. I mean, the murders and stuff, that element is not is fiction, but the characters themselves and their real names and who they are, and I think a pretty good um, description of at least the major characters in the Village Irregulars. So I don't know. I haven't read. I read through one or two books. I read through Stepping on a Rainbow, a book set in Hawaii, and I really enjoyed it. And mostly, I really laughed. I mean, I really thought, "Damn, this guy's good," and he's really funny. And it's very hard, I think, to be funny either in music or anything else. Yeah, it's a career killer. I mean, people don't take you seriously, and that's all there is to it. And it took me until very recently to realize that. And of course, I am a serious soul nobody takes seriously, uh, according to Billy Joe Shaver.
When you look back on such a remarkable career, did you think when you were a kid that you would wind up with such prolific book and record catalogs?
Probably would have been a better agent than I would have been an artist. I was an artist. I happen to be an artist. So I'm an artist. That's what a guy told me with my first record company, Vanguard Records. He said, "You're an artist, Kinky. You're an artist." So I'm an artist. And I've managed to be an artist my whole life. That's an accomplishment.
Any sage wisdom you'd share here with the aspiring author?
Well, I think motivation, it's one of the problems today. As you know, everything has deteriorated. The book doesn't mean as much as it did. Uh, if you like the book, never meet the author. He's going to be an asshole. Some things we can count on. But an 8-year-old kid at a school that I was speaking at to the, whatever the third graders were or whatever, he asked me, he said, "Do you ever," he knew that I was a musician that had turned into an author. Yeah, Floyd will coach me a little bit, this thing can move faster. So the kid knew that because I'd been talking about that. And then the kid says, "Well, when you're typing your mysteries and all that, do you ever hear music in your head? You ever hear lyrics and stuff?" And I said, "Very definitely. It's God telling me that I probably never should have been an author in the first place. And I know I've always been ambivalent about being a country singer, and anybody who uses the word ambivalent should never have been a country singer, I'll tell you that." We were talking before that about something. Oh, writing, I think I always advise step one is to be miserable, legitimately miserable. You know, if you can be, then you're ready. That's the most important thing.
Before we wrap up, tell us about this big ranch you have out in Texas where you and your sister run all these education programs for kids.
This ranch was for 60 years was a camp for boys and girls, and we it closed about 7 or 8 years ago, and since then I was watching things deteriorate. And my sister Marcy and I had this idea. I don't know exactly precisely where it came from, but the idea is to have a camp for kids again, to start it up and make it for uh, kids from Gold Star families who've had a member of the family killed in the military, and also for first responders, not the first responders, but the kids. So all you have to do is be a kid between 7 and 12, and if your father is a cop or was a cop or a firefighter, we the camps for the kid, and it will be just a world-class private camp, concentrating on the fun and the basics. This is not for shrinks and social workers. That's a whole other helpline, you know. We can't save the world. We can only save that one starfish on the sea, on the beach. It's going really good, and it feels like we're in the right place now. I was just thinking the other day, when you die and you go to Jesus and you realize you've devoted your whole life to promoting yourself. How does that feel? It's very much like I remember when Mark Twain said, when you get to heaven, don't try to bring your dog in. They won't let you. Heaven runs on protocol. If heaven ran on merit, your dog would go in and you would stay outside. But may the Lord take a liking to you.
Finally, in closing, your fans would want me to ask, and I've always wanted to know, why do you love cigars so much?
Very fucking simple. They're an oral fixation. And I also, a lot of people I admire, whether it's Lieutenant Columbo or Sherlock or who the hell else? Winston Churchill, of course. Found some, I know those are not all cigar smokers, but cigar smokers, I think, outlive non-smokers. There's evidence for that already.
Mr. Friedman, it's been a once-in-a-lifetime pleasure for us. Thank you so much for being on About the Authors TV.
We'll see you down the highway, Jake.